When someone says, "Just calm down," they are speaking to the symptom, not the experience. Because overthinking and anxiety do not feel like just thoughts. They feel like an event happening inside your body and your brain, all at once. An internal weather system that can be intense enough to change the forecast for your day, your relationships, and even your own identity. Let's begin with a familiar scene. You send a text message to a friend. An hour passes with no reply. At first, your mind is reasonable. They're probably busy. But soon, a deeper part of the brain begins to work on the puzzle. What if they're upset? Did my message sound strange? Have I ruined everything? Before you know it, you are no longer just waiting. You are conducting a full-scale mental investigation. Your heart may begin to beat faster. A tightness might form in your stomach. Your entire world narrows to the screen of your phone. And when you finally check for a reply, you are not simply curious. You are braced for impact. That shift from curiosity to bracing, that is where the story of anxiety begins. It is not merely a feeling, it is a physiological state. When your brain senses uncertainty, it can trigger the body's ancient stress response, the state of fight, flight, or freeze. Adrenaline floods your system. Your muscles tighten. Your focus sharpens on the perceived threat. This is why anxious thoughts feel so sticky, so convincing. They are not just floating in your mind. Your body is reacting to them in real time. This brings us to a core idea, naming the storm inside. When you overthink, your mind treats speculation as fact and possibility as an emergency. Your internal monologue becomes a roaring tempest. The voice of anxiety sounds an alarm. You are in danger. Something is wrong. You must figure this out. Right now. But more often than not, the threat is not a present reality. It is an imagined future, a what if, or a memory replaying with an added layer of drama. Overthinking tends to follow a few predictable patterns. There is the loop, replaying an event over and over, searching for the one single explanation that will make it all make sense. There is catastrophic thinking, the mental leap from "I am not sure" to "this will end in disaster." There is mind reading, the quiet assumption that you know exactly what another person is thinking without a shred of evidence. And sometimes, it wears the mask of perfectionism, where the inability to prevent every possible mistake is treated as proof of inevitable failure. What is crucial to understand is that the brain experiences these patterns as real. It does not clearly distinguish an imagined threat from an actual one, especially when uncertainty is in the air. In fact, a core component of anxiety is often an intolerance of uncertainty, the feeling that not knowing is simply unbearable. If your mind is wired to crave certainty, then even the smallest unanswered question can feel like a live wire. So the next time you feel yourself beginning to spiral, ask a gentle question. What is this storm made of? Is it the fear of consequences? The fear of judgment? The fear of losing control? Naming it will not make it vanish, but it will bring clarity. And with clarity, you can begin to find your footing. Now let's speak of the kind of worry that logic cannot touch. You can plan, you can prepare, you can do all the right things, and still, that quiet hum of dread remains. What if it doesn't work out? It could be a concern for your health, a strained relationship, the relentless pressure of finances, or the shadow of the future. In all these moments, there is a boundary where your efforts end. You have done all that you can do. And yet, the mind keeps working, trying to solve the unsolvable, rehearsing worst-case scenarios in the dead of night. This is where surrender finds its true meaning, not as a passive giving up, but as a conscious decision to hand the uncontrollable over to God. Surrender is the act of holding two realities at once. You are responsible for your part, and God is responsible for everything beyond your control. This balance is a powerful antidote to anxiety's endless loop. Instead of pouring your energy into managing outcomes you cannot possibly manage, you direct that energy toward faithful action. What you can do, right now, while entrusting the rest to a higher power. Consider this. Worrying often feels productive because it keeps the mind busy, but it rarely changes the outcome. The person who overplans for every possible disaster is not preventing disaster. They are simply choosing to carry its weight long before it arrives. Emotionally, this is exhausting. Surrender interrupts this cycle. It is a declaration. I will take the next right step, and I will stop treating tomorrow's uncertainty as a problem I must personally solve today. In Scripture, this is a recurring theme. The shift from self-reliance to divine trust. One of the clearest invitations is found in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Notice the verb, cast. It is an action, not a passive thought. Cast all implies the full weight. The emotional, the mental, the spiritual burden you have been carrying. And the reason is profoundly personal, because he cares for you. The worries do not become unreal. You simply no longer have to carry them alone. Imagine your worries are a heavy backpack. You can choose to hoist it onto your shoulders and keep walking, but you will grow tired. Or you can consciously set it down at God's feet and continue your journey. You are still moving forward, but the load is no longer crushing you. Let's make this practical. Picture someone waiting for the results of a medical test. They have done everything they can. They have made the appointments, followed the instructions, and prayed. But now, in the waiting, the mind begins to spiral. Every minor symptom is re-examined. Every news headline about illness feels like a personal forecast. In this space, surrender means saying, I have done my part. The outcome is now in God's hands. My job is to find peace in this moment, not to live in a future that has not yet arrived. In the final moments before a spiral takes hold, your thoughts can feel like they are on a repeating track. The same worries, the same what-ifs, the same replay of past conversations. The mind does not just think these things. It builds an entire atmosphere out of them. An atmosphere that can make you feel trapped, even when nothing in your external world has changed. When we speak of praying for a reoriented mind, we are not talking about forcing yourself to think positive. We are speaking of a deeper shift, a realignment of your attention, your values, and your response, so that peace has a place to land. A spiral narrows your perspective. It turns everything into evidence. Evidence that you are not safe, that you are falling behind, that you are not enough. Even good news is minimized, because the mind is relentlessly scanning for threats. A friend does not respond to a message right away. The anxious mind declares, "They are upset with me," and your body immediately reacts. A tight chest, a racing heart, before you have any real information. The spiral does not wait for clarity. It manufactures its own urgency. A reoriented mind works differently. It starts not from a place of fear, but from a place of truth. Truth about God, and truth about what you can and cannot control. Prayer is where this realignment begins. Not because it magically deletes every troubling thought, but because it changes what you do with the thought once it appears. In prayer, you practice a new sequence. You notice the spiral beginning. You pause. You turn toward God, and you invite a different kind of thinking to take its place. Imagine your mind is a car, its wheels spinning in a muddy rut. The more you accelerate, the deeper you sink. Reorientation is the act of gently turning the wheel. Prayer is you taking the steering wheel back into your hands. You are saying, God, I see what my mind is doing. I do not want to feed this fear. I want to return to you. That invitation can be quiet and honest. It does not need to be poetic. Sometimes the most powerful prayer is simply, I am overwhelmed. Help me see clearly. And what does peace feel like when it replaces the spiral? Often it shows up as steadiness, not the absence of problems, but the tangible presence of God's calm within them. Peace is not always sunshine and singing. Sometimes peace is the simple feeling of your breathing slowing down. Sometimes it is the moment you stop arguing with God and begin to listen. And sometimes it is the ability to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with panic, choosing one wise step rather than 10 frantic ones. The Bible describes this as a peace that guards your heart and mind. This is a powerful image. Peace is not just a feeling, it is a protective boundary. If anxiety is an open door allowing worry to flood in, peace is the guard who stands at that door, discerning what is allowed to enter. You can feel the difference. In the middle of a difficult conversation, you find a moment of calm to choose your words carefully. That is peace, acting as a guard. In life, there are moments when waiting does not feel neutral. It feels heavy. You have done the right things, you have prayed, you have listened for guidance, and still, nothing changes. The door does not open. The answer does not come. This is where courage in the waiting becomes essential. Because a season of waiting can either shrink your faith or it can strengthen it, depending on what you do while you wait. Waiting is not the same as standing still. Waiting is an active season, a time to absorb truth, align your heart, and practice trust, so that when the next step becomes clear, you are ready to take it. Faith does not only act when the outcome is visible. Faith acts while the outcome is still shrouded in uncertainty. Think of an athlete training for a race. They do not only run when they feel ready. They do not stop training because they have not yet won. They commit to the process, practice, rest, and repetition. The results are not immediate, but the commitment builds endurance. In the same way, spiritual waiting is a training ground. You are learning to remain steady, to interpret delays without panic, and to hold your course even when the timing is not your own. Courage in waiting means refusing to interpret God's silence as abandonment. It is natural to wonder, did I do something wrong? But faith asks a different question. What is this season forming in me? Sometimes, a delay is not a denial. It is a preparation. In the story of Joseph, his life was filled with long seasons of waiting in difficult circumstances. He could not control his situation, but he could control his faithfulness within it. The waiting forged his character, his integrity, and his resilience. This courage also involves honest emotion. You are not expected to pretend you are not hurting. If you are waiting for healing, it is okay to feel frustrated. If you are waiting for a relationship to mend, it is okay to feel lonely. Faith does not erase these feelings. It gives them a place to be held. You can pray, I am anxious, but I am not alone, or I am tired, but I am still trusting. This kind of prayer is both real and brave. Here is a practical way to build courage. Shift your focus from asking, when will it happen, to asking, what can I do today that aligns with my faith? The waiting season does not remove your responsibility. It clarifies it. If you are waiting for a new job, you can refine your resume. If you are waiting for reconciliation, you can practice forgiveness in your own heart. You take the next small, faithful step, and you trust that each one is building a bridge to where you need to go. Now let's talk about the inner voice of accusation, the one that replays your mistakes, magnifies your flaws, and whispers that you are not enough. When guilt, regret, and self-condemnation take root, they do more than cause discomfort. They can quietly reshape how you see yourself and how safe you feel inside your own heart. First, let us draw a distinction. Guilt often relates to behavior. I did something wrong. Regret relates to outcome. I wish that had happened differently. But self-condemnation goes a step further. It shifts from your actions to your identity. It says, there is something fundamentally wrong with me. The thought, I can't believe I did that, morphs into, I am a terrible person. This is where healing gets blocked. Self-condemnation is so painful because your nervous system begins to treat that inner judgment as an ongoing threat. Your body becomes tense, guarded. You replay the past like a courtroom drama where you are both prosecutor and defendant, endlessly searching for evidence of your own failure. But no amount of mental punishment can change what has already happened. The key is to understand that accountability is healthy, but self-attack is not. Accountability means owning your actions and taking steps to make amends. Apologizing, learning, and choosing differently next time. Self-condemnation, on the other hand, tries to punish you into changing. It operates on the lie that you must feel awful to deserve to be better. Real change comes from responsibility paired with grace, not from shame. So how do you release the heart's accusations? Begin by separating the voice from the truth. When you hear it, label it. My mind is generating an accusation that I am to blame. This small pause creates space. It interrupts the spiral. Next, practice a repair statement. This is not denial. It is redirection. You can say to yourself, I regret how I handled that. I cannot change the past, but I can change my next choice. I am learning, and I will do better going forward. This moves you from a place of punishment to a place of progress. Then you can turn to grace. In prayer, you can say, God, I release this judgment. I accept your forgiveness, and I choose to align with your view of me as someone who is loved and who is capable of growth. This is not about letting yourself off the hook. It is about letting yourself move forward. Finally, let us close with 3 practices that support this entire process: rest, gratitude, and ongoing trust. Think of this as the aftercare for your soul. First, rest. Rest is a signal your nervous system deeply understands. It is during periods of rest that your body repairs itself, and your brain consolidates learning and regulates stress. When you feel calmer after a good night's sleep, or clearer after stepping away from a problem, that is your brain resetting itself. Build small moments of recovery into your day. A 10-minute break without a screen. A short walk outside. A simple routine at the end of the day to signal to your body that it is time to wind down. Consistency is more important than perfection. Mental rest is just as vital. If your mind is constantly replaying worries, give it a container. Take a few minutes to write down what is on your mind and then make a note. I will revisit this tomorrow. This simple act tells your brain that the problem is not being abandoned, merely postponed. It reduces the cognitive load that keeps you in a state of high alert. Next, gratitude. Gratitude is the intentional practice of noticing what is working. It is an emotional discipline that shifts your attention from what is missing to what is present. This shift can help break the habit of rumination. Try the practice of 3 anchors. Each day, name 3 specific things you are grateful for. Not just health, but the way my knee didn't hurt on the stairs today. Not just family, but the sound of my friend's laughter on the phone. Specificity brings gratitude out of the abstract and into your lived reality. And finally, ongoing trust. This journey is not a one-time event, but a continuous practice of returning. Returning to your breath. Returning to prayer. Returning to the truth that you are not alone in your struggles. Each time you notice the storm of anxiety gathering, you have a choice. You can be swept away by it, or you can anchor yourself in the quiet presence of God, who is with you, who cares for you, and who offers a peace that the world cannot understand.